It all started on a Tuesday, which is weird, right? You'd expect something this strange to happen on a Friday the 13th, or at least during a full moon. But no, it was a perfectly ordinary, slightly overcast Tuesday afternoon. I was coming back from one of my long hikes, the kind where you try to get completely lost just to see if you can find your way back. I live pretty deep in the woods, so getting lost is more like my backyard hobby. As I was trudging up my long, gravel driveway, I heard it, a rustling in the bushes that was just a little too heavy to be a squirrel and a little too clumsy to be a deer. I paused, listening. My first thought was a bear, so I did what you're supposed to do. I made myself look big, clapped my hands, and yelled, "Hey, go on, get out of here." The rustling stopped. I waited a beat, then another. Nothing. Figuring I'd scared it off, I continued toward my cabin. I unlocked the door, dropped my backpack with a thud, and went straight for the kitchen to grab a bottle of water. As I stood at the sink, chugging it down, I glanced out the window that overlooks my porch, and that's when I saw him. Peeking around the corner of my woodshed, about 50 yards away, was a face. It wasn't a human face, and it wasn't an animal face I recognized. It was covered in shaggy, brown hair, with big, dark, incredibly curious eyes, and it was small. This wasn't the giant, lumbering beast of legend. This looked like a kid. My heart did a weird little flip-flop. I wasn't scared. I was fascinated. He looked more frightened than I was. He ducked back behind the woodshed as soon as our eyes met. I slowly opened my back door and stepped out onto the porch, holding my hands up where he could see them. "Hey," I said softly. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." There was no response. I stood there for what felt like an eternity. The woods were silent except for the chirping of a few distant birds. I decided to try a different approach. I went back inside, grabbed an apple from the fruit bowl, and walked back out. I placed the apple on the porch railing, then backed away, leaving the door slightly ajar so I could watch from inside. It took him nearly half an hour to inch his way out from behind the shed. He moved with a strange, loping gait, half-crouched, constantly scanning the tree line as if he expected something to jump out. He was about 4 feet tall, gangly and awkward, like a teenager who hadn't quite grown into his limbs yet. His fur was the color of rich soil, matted with leaves and twigs. He sniffed the air, his nose twitching, then his big, dark eyes fixed on the apple. He crept up the porch steps, one by one, his movements surprisingly quiet for his size. He snatched the apple, then scrambled back into the woods so fast he was just a blur of brown. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Part of me thought that would be the end of it. A once-in-a-lifetime encounter, but the next day, he was back. This time, he was sitting at the edge of the woods, just watching my cabin. He didn't hide. It was like he was waiting. So, I did the same thing. I put out another apple, but this time I also put out a bowl of water. He waited until I went back inside before he came for it. This became our routine. Every day, I'd leave out a little something fruit, some berries I'd gathered, once a peanut butter sandwich, which he seemed to really enjoy. I started talking to him through the window. I'd tell him about my day, about the book I was reading, about the birds I saw. I gave him a name, Barnaby. It just seemed to fit. He would just sit and listen. His head tilted to one side. His expressions were so clear. I could tell when he was curious, when he was cautious, and even when he seemed amused. One afternoon, a big thunderstorm rolled in. The sky turned dark, and the rain came down in sheets. I looked out, and Barnaby was huddled under a big pine tree, looking absolutely miserable. He was soaked, shivering, and he looked so small and lonely. My heart just broke. Against all my better judgment, I opened the back door and gestured for him to come in. "Come on, Barnaby," I called out over the thunder. "Get in, Eric. You'll be safe." He just stared at me, his eyes wide with uncertainty. I stepped back from the door, giving him space. He took a hesitant step toward the porch, then another. Finally, with a great, shuddering breath, he loped across the yard and ducked inside my cabin, dripping all over the floor. I didn't care. I tossed him a couple of old, clean towels. He sniffed them, then, seeming to understand, he started clumsily trying to dry his fur. He spent the whole storm in my living room. He didn't touch anything. He just sat on the rug by the fireplace, which I had lit to help him warm up, and watched the flames. He smelled like damp earth and pine needles, and something else. Something wild and ancient. It wasn't a bad smell, it was just him. When the storm passed and the sun came out, he went to the door and looked back at me. It was a clear question. I nodded. Yeah, I can go. He gave a low, guttural sound. The first real noise I'd ever heard him make. It wasn't a roar or a growl. It sounded more like a thank you. And then he was gone, back into the trees. After that day, everything changed. He wasn't just a visitor anymore. He was a friend. He started spending more time near the cabin, sometimes just dozing in a patch of sun in the yard. He never came inside again, unless there was another bad storm. But he didn't need to. Our friendship existed in the space between my world and his. I realized he wasn't lost. He was just lonely. From what I could gather, he was an adolescent, maybe cast out from his family group to find his own way, as some species do. He was navigating that awkward, scary time between being a child and an adult, and for some reason, he chose me as a safe harbor. He would follow me on my hikes sometimes, staying about 30 yards back, a silent, furry shadow. I knew he was there. It was comforting. I felt like I had the world's most unique guardian angel. He would occasionally leave me gifts on my porch, strangely shaped rock, a bouquet of wildflowers with the roots still attached. Once a very large, very dead fish. I always made sure to thank him profusely. People always talk about Bigfoot as this terrifying monster, a monster to be hunted and captured. But what I found was a shy, intelligent, and gentle soul who just needed a friend. Barnaby taught me that the world is so much bigger and more mysterious than we think, and that sometimes the greatest discoveries aren't things you can put in a museum. They're the connections you make, no matter how unlikely. He's still out there. I saw him this morning, watching me from the edge of the woods. I waved, and I'm pretty sure he waved back. I don't know how long he'll stay, or if he'll eventually find his own kind and move on. But for now, I'm just grateful for my strange, hairy, and wonderful friend. It turns out, sometimes the most extraordinary things happen on the most ordinary of days. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever had an experience you just can't explain, let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more adventures from the woods. See you next time.